it was something that was addressed in the collaboration agreement. So our typical collaboration agreement would have publication clauses in the legal contract. And the way that would normally work is that, the university would preserve its rights to publish the resulting data results, I'm just going to say intellectual property, in an academic publication, but it's subject to a number of caveats. And they would be that we would not have the right to incorporate any of the confidential information of the company if that had been shared to us confidentially in the publication, and that's fair. And also that we would afford the company the right to review and indeed sometimes comment on the publication in advance of its submission to a journal. So it gives the company the comfort of knowing what's in the publication, that we haven't just, put it out the back door without consulting with the company. And it's also, of course, underpinned by the fact that if there's patentable subject matter in the publication, that we have contacted, for example, the EPO in advance and submitted a patent application. So we're not inadvertently destroying the novelty or the inventiveness of the invention. So generally, it's managed through that type of process. But it does involve, again, it goes back to having a good working relationship and trust between the parties, that we will both adhere to the terms and conditions of the collaboration agreement. Yeah.
Yeah,
I should also say,
sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I was just going to say, while maybe publications are seen as the bread and butter of the academic world and academic researchers, companies are also very keen to publish as well. And indeed, when you're coming up with, or you've developed an innovative technology and you're developing a product on the back of that, having a strong scientific paper actually helps the company in terms of its subsequent marketing and so forth. If it can say, and this has been supported by research conducted in UCD and clinically validated in such and such a hospital. So it's good for the company as well. And indeed, in many cases, in UCD, when we enter into collaborations, we'll actually have joint authorship on the publication. So if it's been an active collaboration where industry researchers are working with our researchers in trying to solve a problem, you might actually end up having both of authors from both the industry party and the academic party. Yeah. Ireland is relatively new to technology transfer. So it wasn't until maybe the early 2000s that the state really started to invest heavily in its universities. And it was all to bring Ireland up in terms of spending and R&D to bring it, in accordance with the Lisbon agenda. So I guess the infrastructure within Ireland really only took off 20 years ago. And indeed, the infrastructure to support that research, as in, for example, technology transfer, only really started about 15, 16 years ago. So, what we would see is that one part of our role is obviously trying to license out technologies or create spin-out companies, and we've had a good track record over those last 15 years. But none of that will happen unless we can educate our researchers on intellectual property, on innovation in general, and entrepreneurship. So we have a very open door policy. We will talk to our researchers, whenever they have an issue at all. It doesn't necessarily always lead to an invention disclosure or a patent filing or indeed a license or anything like that. But it's a way for us to establish a good working relationship with the researchers, and then hopefully, they will knock on our door someday and have something really interesting, and that's then what we get our teeth into and take it further. But in terms of how we do that, there's a relatively small team here in the technology transfer office. There's sort of 5 case managers, and they basically cover the entire university, and they're divided into kind of different research domains like information communication technologies, food, agriculture, life, medical sciences, that type of thing. And they have primary responsibility of getting to know researchers in their research domains, meeting with them in their research labs, attending coffee mornings, giving seminars, having little workshops, very much with a goal to educating the researchers that they, in other words, it's not completely dependent on us to spot a great idea, but that the researchers themselves will start thinking about, oh, should I be talking to the TTO about maybe filing a patent before I publish this? So we do see outreach to our research community as being really important in terms of enabling us to fulfill our remit of transferring out technologies. And that takes time. It takes a cultural change sometimes, you know, because for many of our research staff, when they joined the university, we sometimes say it's a big R, as in big research, small I for innovation. And now we're trying to get that balance right between research and innovation so that they're both of equal weighting. And indeed, that feeds in then to how we promote our academics within UCD. So innovation and the impact of their research is as important now as, let's say, just having just purely academic papers with no kind of innovation aspect to it. So it's a combination of factors. And also we do, and I guess it's in the case study, the more the wider case study, we do have quite an attractive incentive scheme so that if we are successful in transferring out technologies, and if that results in either an equity realization or license income coming into the universities, there's a very attractive reward scheme to our academic staff. And that's money that they can use as they wish and for personal use or whatever. So, so there are the financial inducements as well as everything else. I'd just like to conclude by having a few key takeaways. You know, recognize that you know, all partners have needs and incentives in these collaborations. You need to you know, set targets and milestones. You need to have IP terms that reflect the inputs of both parties. If it ends up being jointly owned IP, I would strongly advise that you enter into what we call a joint ownership agreement. And then in terms of the financial side of things, to, you know, benchmark your deal structure, make it based on industry norms, and also as part of the negotiations, take into account the contributions of the company. And then finally, from I guess an investment point of view, if you've been managed to create something that's an innovative product that's addressing an unmet medical need, you know, follow the markets and seek the growth financing. And in this case here, it was through venture capital funding, and that was greatly assisted by having a strong IP strategy right from the start with good IP protection.